Hi, I'm Mark Lee, and I am an IT support specialist at Tatos Incorporated. And today, what I want to discuss with you guys is why our current OS can be very expensive and how it can be a downhill for the company, especially since we're so small. Um, and also, I'm going to be discussing on what we should convert to and why, and what applications I have provided currently and can add later on to other machines and departments. So let's get started. So, some disadvantages of using Windows, right? So, Windows, we all know, is not free. Um, and if we do try to use it for free, there will be a watermark in the bottom right, and that's not very professional in our environment. And also, there are many features that are limited by not having a key for it. So, for not having a key, we can't customize our backgrounds. We can't um, look at some of the services that we may need to change at one point. Just stuff like that. It would be hard to manage later on, especially as we go bigger and bigger. And also, each key is worth around $135, which can be added up quickly, especially when we're adding new employees, machines, and etc., and especially departments, because a whole entire department can cost around about 2 grand, I'd say, if we have at least 20 employees, if we're growing that big and large fast. Um, Another disadvantage would be is the higher rate of resources used per machine. So if we want to run multiple machines on, let's say, one computer, we'd probably only be able to get maybe one or two if we wanted to operate smoothly and efficiently. So that's why I want to convert to this upcoming OS that I'm about to explain here in a second, which is Ubuntu, or Linux as they call it nowadays. Multiple reasons why. It's because it's free for personal and business use with no limitations at all. It's slim and easy interface, which is pretty nice because it if people are working at home from their own machines and they already have a certain OS, which they call it nowadays or is nowadays, Mac OS, it looks very similar. It acts the same, just a little different looking. Um, Also, some advantages are you can avoid driver updates completely, and if you want them to update, you can have them update in the background while you're still working. And yeah, so also, it uses up less hardware, which can lead to multiple machines being used. So, for example, each machine on the current VM I'm working on can run smoothly at 2 gigabytes of RAM and two processors. And it runs completely smooth. I'll show you here in a second whenever I show the applications I have installed. Um, but it's very easy, um, and we can make multiple templates of them if we're running off a VM um, software, which can provide multiple environments for employees and such. So yeah, some of the applications I have installed are Visual Code or Visual Studio Code, which is a common app used to create code and can even help create code that can be injected into our systems to help with the same common issues like configurations or settings that may be conflicted with other applications and such, which is easier on us because it will be it could just be one or a few lines of code that can help solve our issue, and we can just inject it right in to change everything using, which I'm about to explain here, a desktop viewer. The desktop viewer I went with was Remia, which is provided in the App Store of Ubuntu or Linux. which allows us to connect to other desktops using the SSH key and IP addresses and so forth. Um, and lastly, the last program I installed, since we're working in the IT support field, I went with Super Productivity, which is something that can help manage our issues and figure out what tasks need to be done each day and how and what time frames we should do it. Which I'll show here an example by just writing some random uh, task, down and show you what times need to be configured and all that jazz. Um, so this allows us to be obviously more organized and can help us solve issues one by one since working in the IT support field, we can be blown up with many issues at once and we just need to either write them down or using the super productivity, which we can add multiple tasks at once for different people. So I'll show that here right now. So here is our VM here. Log in. So as you can see, I made our VM with a potato in IT support. So each department will have, the same photo with with their department name on it, just for a fun and not like super serious environment, but also we want to be very productive. Just because sometimes everything can be too serious and it doesn't make it fun, and people their work productivity goes down and such. So I just wanted to make a little fun background for each department, and this is it. So first, what I explained at the beginning is our Visual Code Studio Code here. All right, so this is where we would create our new files, inject our code here, which can help with certain configurations by looking through GitHub, which is a great code usage and can help us with many issues, um, and so on and so forth. All right. So next, what we have is super productivity, which I mentioned is our task manager in a way. Um, so as you can see, we can write down a task. So let's say fix. Give me 1 second. Oh, it's not responding. So fix Joe's computer, right? Okay. So there's our inbox. We can, you know, how we can add descriptions on how we want to achieve it. Um, and we can also repeat it if uh, multiple computers in the same department. So we could be very broad with our answers or with our task. Um, and why do we want it? And we can schedule what time we want it. So let's say like we want to spend 10 minutes on it, and estimate could be like 20. So we can try to exceed our the expected times, and then we just check them off like this. So completed task, right? This is a very easy thing to use, especially when handling multiple tasks in the IT field. Um, and it just makes our job a bit easier. You don't want to just have a notepad in the background just writing out each thing and losing track of what we completed that day. So yeah. And lastly, our Ramia desktop client. So what we would do is we would add a connection. We can name it, we can say what group or department it's in, its label, and once we figure out all the SSH um, keys and such, it'll allow us to connect to that PC and remotely work on it instead of having to go directly to the actual PC and um, fix the issue that way. So we could just easily do it from our system. It'll save us a lot of time since our company is so big and we don't know specifics on where the location is at for that PC. So, yeah. So we'll go back to our slideshow here. I just wanted to demonstrate a little bit of the apps and what our atmosphere looks like right now. This is obviously a test. We're still running them. We want to add more applications that are kind of similar to Windows, like, for example, Microsoft PowerPoint. Um, we probably have to find a different, PowerPoint presentation thing, or application to use, even spreadsheets and such. So we're just going to have to adapt to those as we go, right? Let's go back to our presentation here. Sorry for the issues here. So when converting to Ubuntu from our current OS, which is Windows, we can obviously have potential issues that can happen in between. So one huge issue I find is that since we've been working for a few months now, um, on Windows, it would be kind of hard to convert everyone to the OS, right? So what our plan here is to try to slowly adapt everybody into, um, Ubuntu or Linux, um, just so it's a bit easier for them later on for their daily task and such. Also, another issue could be is software compatibility, right? So some softwares aren't Linux, supported, and that could be a huge issue, especially if we're using, Microsoft PowerPoint or Word. Um, Sometimes some of those applications, like similar to that, won't be supported using Linux. Also, when converting, we can have some hardware issues, right? So if we want to try to convert to Ubuntu or Linux, we want to, we would probably have a issue with converting them each and every time, since it would be kind of hard on our end, and it can even break some of the systems that we currently have if not done right. So what we want to do is try to polish it before we have this rollout. um, and I'll explain in our timeline here on how long it'll take for us to get it done and when it should be expected to be done. So here's our timeline here. So our first month would be to convert all IT support systems to Ubuntu or Linux, just so they have a great grasp on it. Um, just so we can be a teacher to all the other departments on how to use it and what certain applications do what. So, for example, I could explain what the task manager does, because that's not only solely for IT support, it could be used for each department. There's also a shared file that you can present throughout the whole department or each department, which can add on tasks and edit them and make sure that we get them done within our time frames, right? So the second, third, and fourth month, I know that's a lot of months at once, but we want to incorporate at least a few systems to each department, just so they can get a grasp on it and how they would do their daily tasks still on our new OS. Because we just don't want to, implement them right into the new OS, before they even get used to it. So our fifth and sixth month would be, um, to see what issues that we have came across during our testing period, I would say, which is the first month or fourth month. That's pretty much our testing period for all of the systems in a way. So fifth and sixth would help with fixing all those issues or bugs that we can occur using at that time. And we would use the fifth and sixth months to polish it and then probably roll it out. I'd say probably in the middle of the 6th month. Um, and get that done, hopefully in a time frame where we can all meet our expectations and such. So yeah. So in conclusion, converting Tatos Incorporate to Linux or Ubuntu was a great choice because of its versatility and its hardware support, which can lead to new VMs, more employees in the future, without an extra cost. Since we already have all these systems that are packing high hardware, um, and we will run into some issues, of course, but as time goes on, we will polish those and get it done correctly. Thank you. And that's all. Thank you very much for watching my presentation. Here is where I got my information.